Morning, this is LA Prepper. We are feeling a little bit better after yesterday. I don't know what was going on yesterday, but man, I do know what was going on. I just don't know why I was sort of overly sour about everything. At any rate, new day is here. So Hoople's Cat Prepping recently did a video about women and prepping. And he challenged the community to look back at the videos they've made and see how many focus on women-centric topics. To answer that question, I believe my answer is, I'm pretty sure it's 0. I know I talked about kids and prepping maybe once. I might have talked about your significant other once, but that doesn't specifically mean woman, because if you're a woman watching the show, well, at any rate, I'm not going to make... I don't need to carry that conversation on because, don't mean to be heterosexually prejudiced in regards to my analogies, but anyways. Second challenge was to talk about the women in your life who have made a difference, or as they relate to prepping. Personally, it's my mom, more than almost anyone. I don't have a lot of other regular women in my life that I'm close to. Is that a weird thing to say? I don't know. I have female cousins and aunts and stuff, but they don't really live nearby. And I wouldn't say they're necessarily a huge part of my life. At least, certainly my aunts and female cousins have been a part of my life, I think for the most part in a very positive way. Aside from that, I suppose it's a little challenging for me to answer that question. Perhaps because I don't sort of store that data in that way in my head. Like if somebody helps me, I don't think, oh, that was a guy that helped me, thank you, male. Oh, that was a woman that helped me, thank you, woman. I'm just sort of like, oh, thank you for the help, But I think it's a good question. I think it's a very good question, in general. I could probably answer it a little better if I thought about it a little more. It's kind of a vague and open-ended question, but anyways, not vague, but I mean, so general, right? Should watch some other people's video responses to that. Maybe it'll make more sense to me. Number 3, so Hooples was talking about women-centric prepping issues, and I thought about it, and I really, part of me feels like, even though I like to consider myself someone who believes that we're all essentially equal in the sense that we're all created equal. We're not, as we grow up and just based on who and how we're born and such, we may not all turn out equal, but essentially we're kind of, we all start with similar blank plates, right? So I was thinking, I don't even know if I have an accurate understanding. I don't know if I understand women well enough to be able to answer this question as well as perhaps I would like. And at the same time, just asking that question, it's in and of itself, I feel like it means that, am I presuming that there are such big significant differences between men and women? Kind of an interesting thing, right? Like if you're a purist, and I'm not going to get into like feminism, masculism, too much in this video or anything, but if you were a purist and you thought men and women were 100% equal, I suppose the answer to the question is there's no difference in prepping for men and women, so just talk about prepping and don't worry about it, right? But anyways, I'm here on care.org. I googled misconceptions about women because I thought it might help give myself and maybe some viewers some insight as to perhaps the wrong way to go about making videos about prepping for women, right? So, talking about these different things, women's empowerment comes at the expense of men. Girls can't do math or science. Women crack under pressure. It's a man's world. She asked for it. Women can't be trusted with money. Women can't lead. A woman's health is not a man's concern. Girls belong in marriage and not school. And a woman's place is in the home. I'm not sure if this website is specifically directed at a certain part of the world. We'll assume that it's not, I suppose. So anyways, and I tried to look at, this one had 14 pages I had to click through. I didn't want to do it. All these other ones are like really specific, right? Look at this, how interesting this is. So this is myths about women, myths about women, myths about women in the workplace, and then right down here, myths about women's bodies, myths about women's bodies, common skips and myths having about women. I don't know what that one is about. Women. Let's see if this one is a little more general. Okay, here we go. This is a general one too. So here's some more common misconceptions. They're very self-centered. Their standards are high. They don't do relationships. I don't know. Seems a little ridiculous considering how many women get married, but at any rate. They want to be the man in the relationship. They are conceited. They're controlling. They don't need to be courted. They only care about their careers. They're mean. They're emasculating. They overthink everything. They have an attitude. They can't ask for help. They don't have many friends. Wow, that's a really cold thing to say about women. I would say, if anything, I would stereotype women as having a lot larger friend network than guys do. What a weird stereotype. Anyways, they hardly have intimacy. Seems like a somewhat... Well, I guess we all have our own perspectives in life. So these misconceptions are this author's perspective, Jasmine's perspective. And of course, just because you're a woman doesn't mean you're, necessarily oblivious to generalizations that are not necessarily, accurate. But we're all fallible, right? So anyways. So we have some misconceptions about women. I don't think it's really appropriate for me to try to talk about in this video what I do think necessarily are the differences between men and women as they relate to prepping. Are there some differences? I suppose there are, but this is sort of largely what I think about the difference between prepping specifically for women or prepping specifically, or sort of prepping videos for different types of people, right? So if you said that a man has more ability than a woman in a certain category, right? Forget the category, just say some category. Physical, mental, whatever, it doesn't matter. Spiritual, emotional, a lot of different categories in life. If you take that assumption and say, okay, men are better than women in some certain category. So in order to make a prepping video for women, I have to talk about how they're weaker in this category and how they need to get stronger in this category. And like I said, it really doesn't matter what category you're talking about. I suppose my sort of counterpoint to that would be, you're going to find those differences between the same sex just as much as you find them between the sexes, right? So if you say men can do category X better than women, you could also say a lot of women can do category X better than some men. There's some men that can do category X better than some women. There's some men that can do it better than other men, and some women that can do it better than other women, and worse, and in any kind of combination of that, right? So does it make sense to say this is how, to make one video for women to say this is how women can get better at category X, then make another video for men to say this is how men can get better at category X? Or do you make a video about different people with different ranges of abilities within that category? The person just starting out in category X, the person who has some of these qualities working on category X, the person. So There probably are some categories that perhaps it's a little more appropriate to kind of specify out between the sexes different strategies and tactics. But I mean, if you look at a lot of prepping stuff, right? Let's take some common prepping categories. Storing food. When you can fruit, the fruit doesn't care if you're a man or a woman, right? Operating the canning machine doesn't. And if you're, regardless if you're a man or a woman, aside perhaps from general nutritional requirement differences between men and women, I won't really speak on that. But if there is some science towards men and women needing different balances of nutrients. I'll just kind of leave it at that. Maybe you'd want to store different combinations of food based on if you had a lot of women in your house or a lot of men in your house. I don't know. Look, I'm not a nutritionist, so I can't really talk about that further. But point is, essentially, men and women both need to eat similar types of nutrition. So look at, let's say, bushcraft skills, right? Is there a way for a woman to hold a hatchet that's different than a man? Does a woman hold a folding saw or a buck saw different than a man does? Or chop a tree down different than a guy does? Um, I don't personally think so. If you use an axe or a hatchet a lot, you're probably going to be more proficient with an axe or a hatchet. If you don't use an axe or a hatchet a lot, you probably will not be very proficient with one. So a woman who chops a lot of firewood will probably be able to chop firewood better than a guy who doesn't chop a lot of firewood. So why would I make a video about how to chop firewood for women when I'm not gonna I don't personally have any ideas how I would teach it any differently. Self-defense is something that I think, due to kind of stereotypes, generalizations, misconceptions, you would see potentially people making or considering that they should make specific videos like, oh, women are not as strong or not able to defend themselves as much, and stereotypes like that, right? But back to my original point, you say like, oh, men are stronger than women. Well, perhaps some men, perhaps even on average, but if I'm going to make a video on how to get stronger, it's not going to be based on whether or not you're a man or a woman. It might be based on your age. It might be based on your current physical condition. But if I think that lifting free weights is a good idea, I don't care what sex you are. If I think that using, smooth motions and not jerking motions while you're working out is safer, that goes for everyone, right? That goes for all human beings. So, and, looking at like martial arts, right? Do you teach karate differently to a guy than you do a girl? I don't know. I don't teach karate. But, is throwing a good punch different for a guy and a girl? I don't think so. I think, you turn your hips the same whether or not you're a man or a woman if you're trying to throw a good punch. So, trying to follow through with your energy as you're throwing the punch. Good head movement. Boxing. Are you going to teach a guy or a girl how to box differently? Would you teach them jujitsu differently? I don't know that. What else? Let's see. Self-defense, bushcraft, storing food, some other like prepper activity stuff. Self-sufficiency. I don't think you would really, when Prepper Nurse is talking about his solar panel setup, can you imagine like how funny it'd be if he was like, all right, so if you're a woman, this is how you set up solar panels. People watching that video would say like, oh my God, this guy is sexist, like sexist as hell. And look, for people watching the video right now, I don't want it to sound like I'm trying to undermine Hoople's point or undermine the value of women in society or the special, unique role that they play. I'm just kind of exploring this topic kind of from a somewhat devil's advocate point of view, from the purists, point of view, so to speak, and say, maybe men and women are almost completely identical and there really is no reason to kind of think about instructing them how to prepare differently. If it's a good idea to carry mace, Doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. You know, no matter how big you are, whether or not you're a guy or a girl, there's always somebody bigger and scarier out there. It's kind of the sad reality of life. Um, Now, yes, maybe if you're 6'5" and 240 pounds, maybe you're the big and scary person, right? And you don't have to worry as much about other people, whether or not you're a guy or a girl. Because I tell you what, if you're 6'4" and 240 pounds, whether or not you're a man or a woman, there's a chance that you could lift a large rock, you know? So I'm gonna need a little bit of help probably on this topic. I would be more than interested in trying to focus more on getting female viewers. In fact, or at least, getting a good balance of viewers. I looked recently on my analytics and it didn't show up. I have no idea why. Isn't that funny? I would tell y'all to check out your analytics and tell me if it's for some reason just blanking out on that. Weird, right? But I think, in general, I think Hooples raises a really good point that a lot of media can be kind of male centric, and perhaps even unintentionally, guys making videos are talking more about guy topics or topics that guys are interested in, girls are in. I'm not sure. I don't know if on average women that are interested in prepping are interested in different things than men are. I mean, I know preppers are interested in sustainability, whether or not they're a man or a woman. They're interested in self-defense. They're interested in food storage. They're interested in being more reliant upon themselves, learning more skills. So I'm gonna think about this topic a little more. Maybe I'll watch some of the other some of the other YouTubers and see what they've spoken about it. One last thing I'll close with is that I think it's an interesting idea looking at different types of preppers, right? For example, apartment preppers, budget preppers, the survivalist preppers, the bushcraft kind of oriented preppers. I don't know if they call themselves, bushcrafters or survivalists and don't like the prepping word, but there are a lot of different groups of preppers. There's young preppers, there's old preppers, retired preppers, veteran preppers, preppers with disabilities. Something I was thinking of that I don't know if I've seen ever a video on, prepping for people with disabilities or prepping for the apocalypse when you're blind or when you're deaf or when you have mobility issues. Prepping if you're on oxygen or if you're on dialysis. People that have more advanced medical needs are in a much more dire situation should things go bad in a long-term deal. You start having difficulty with dialysis or insulin supplies. It's not good. Very, very not good. So thank you, Hooples, for a really good video and a good question that I don't know if there's an easy answer to it. Maybe that's okay. But in general, I do think making videos that touch on the unique and specific needs, if there are unique and specific needs between different types of preppers, I think it's a good idea because we're not all in the same situation. We don't all have quite the same kind of priorities. We don't all have the same resources. We don't all have the same capabilities. So every prepper is completely different. So I think it is definitely important to look at a variety of preppers and try, if our goal is to just make videos so we can hear ourselves talk, that's one thing. Make a video, upload it, that's cool. YouTube was kind of born on that. But if you're also trying to make part of your purpose on YouTube to kind of give back to the community and touch different parts of the community, I think it's a really good idea to look at different groups within the community and ask these types of questions. It doesn't mean you have to necessarily give your opinion or, form really solid views about, oh, well, prepping for kids is definitely different or prepping for women is definitely, we don't want to start fighting between ourselves whether or not prepping for women is different or whether or not prepping for seniors is different or not than prepping for everyone else. And, that's not really the point. But I think it's a very interesting concept, the differences how prepping is different between different groups. I think it's a really, really interesting question. So thanks, Hooples, for the inspiration. Thanks, you guys and gals and everyone for watching. Let me know what you think. Until next time, like, comment, subscribe. Whether you're a man, woman, young, old, no matter how much you have or how much you don't have or what you want in life, keep prepping.